Hey everybody, Jerry Taggart here. Now be sure to watch Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV by subscribing on YouTube and following them on social media for all the latest Leicester City news and information. Come on you foxes!
Strap yourself in because we're set up, switched on and ready to go.
You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts. Leicester Till I Die TV, your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
Are you ready? I'm saying, are you ready?
Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, fellow Fox fans. How the devil are we? How are you doing? Got over it yet? It's like this. I think it's a bit like riding a bike. They say we've got to get back on as soon as we can. And if we're going to get back on a bike, let's back on a bike. And we will try and get a better result this weekend. Couldn't be a lot worse, really, could it? Like, I'm going to say, bring my colleagues back in. It's Leicester Till I Die TV, I should say. Facebook, Leicester Till I Die, the group. We are on the Twitter sphere at Leicester TID. And if you can, get over to YouTube. We are so near the 1,000 mark. It would be brilliant if you could join us and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leicester Till I Die TV. Like I said, tweak me buttons, pull me knobs. I love it. Whatever you can do for me. I'm just a YouTube whore. What can I say? But hey, we've got this tonight. And that would have been really, really better had I pressed the right one and we had a bit of music with it. We'll try it again.
It's the Premier League preview show with Chris and Craig on Leicester Till I Die TV.
It is. Let's bring him in and say good evening to the wise old sage. Good evening, Craig.
Good evening, Chris. Good evening, everyone. Even got my own theme tune now. A little bit of a jingle. I think I've made it. I can.
You have. You know when you're jingling that you have made it. But I'm afraid you have to take second stage. We've got a special guest. We've got a special guest this evening who is hiding away in his camper van because his house has been invaded and taken over. And I've got to be honest with you, I don't blame him. When my kids had a birthday party, it was Mrs. Get on with it, I'm off. Steve Lynex, Leicester Till I Die, or Leicester City winger. How the devil are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. Good evening, everybody.
As you can see, me and Craig at the moment are covered up by a Norwich and a Leicester City band. So let's.
I can do with that as well.
Yeah. I can move you around. Look. This. Oh, yeah. I think I can. No, I was supposed to be able to move you around, but Streamled lied to me. Let's do that. There we go. You can. Oh, that was good then, Craig. You were hidden. Before we look at this upcoming game, unfortunately, we do have to look back at the last game. Yes, exactly. From a professional point of view, Steve, this is something Craig said earlier. You normally, when you have a bad game, there's usually one player that you can say, well, he played well, he had a good game. I remember the England-Greece World Cup game at Man United, at Old Trafford, and we didn't play well, but Beckham had a blinder. Unfortunately, apart from Casper in goal, nobody turned up. It was just a whole bad team effort.
I think you got caught on a day where West Ham were good, but I think not to slag the manager off, but I think totally went out with the wrong tactics.
I mean, Craig, he's played West Ham before, twice last season. They beat us both times. It's not rocket science to know what's coming, is it?
No, it's not. And, it does sound a little bit cliche, but when you're playing a team who are playing at pace and are physical, you've got to match them first. It sounds like you've got to earn the right to play your football, and it is a bit of a cliche, but you've got to match them. You've got to come out from the off, and this happens too often for my liking with Brendan, that we come out and start so slowly. You can't suddenly pick up into a second gear, once the team's in your face and at you. And you're right. We knew West Ham were going to do that. That's how they play. That's how they got their success last season. So it was just really disappointing how slow everything was. And, I think by all accounts, Soyuncu created a record for the number of passes across the back line during that first half. Unfortunately, the one in the second half didn't go to one of our players, but I mean, he
did get credited with an assist for West Ham, I believe.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it was. I don't know how you think. Well, Steve, maybe you can tell me from a player's perspective, but surely you can react to what's going on in the game, or you should be able to, and say, actually, okay, we need to do X, we need to do Y. In your day, you had leaders on the pitch who would react and step it up, but it seems like they go out with the instructions, and there's no deviation from it at all.
I think so. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think the modern game of football now is there's a lot of background stuff that goes into the games. There's a lot of tactics. There's a lot of things, how to stop the opposition. And I think they tried to play to a game plan which wasn't going to work from the kickoff. And there wasn't anybody on the pitch that wanted to change the game plan, because I don't think anybody in that game knew what they were doing.
I mean, I actually made the comment that we would have probably been better off if West Ham had let us borrow Antonio's cardboard cutout and put them in defence, and we might have got a draw. But let's get
the main thing with that is why he looks so good, Antonio, is because they play to his strengths. Mm-hmm. Now we've got a striker that's, in my opinion, is twice as good as him, but we didn't play to his strengths, and that's the big difference.
Vardy had the fewest touches on the ball. We had less touches than Schmeichel, and no matter how good a striker is, you've got to get the ball to him, and we were not getting the ball to him, were we, Steve?
No, Vardy's the kind of player that plays on the shoulder of the defender, and like you say, you listen to the stats, and that I think there was 60 odd passes between the two centre halves. How can Vardy make any runs when he knows the ball is not coming forward? And that was the offset. The midfield couldn't react from that because they had to go back and collect the ball, and 4 or 5 passes going 10 yards. West Ham closing down all the options, and they were attacking further up the pitch than they should have been.
I want to get the elephant in the room out of the way first, and that was the sending off. It reminded me very much of the tackle when Bertrand did it on Perez in the Southampton 9-0. I was surprised, Steve, but you saying that Leicester are appealing the sending off.
Yeah, I was quite chuckled, to be honest. It was on Facebook. They were trying to appeal it, saying that 3 games wasn't enough. They wanted 6.
that one's for Brad. Just in case Brad's watching, that one is for him.
Going back to that tackle and the sending off, I was watching it on TV, and all the angles they were showing, the referee was 10, 15 yards away, and he was staring at it, and he didn't give it. And it was just VAR and everybody else that's involved in this modern day football that got him sent off. Because if you'd have gone back to real time and the referee let it go, that was the end of it. And because nobody protested really about it. It was just like one of those kind of things. But because now you've got too many involvement from off the pitches, that's why he got sent off.
Craig, do you think he deserved to go? I mean, from my point of view, and I was watching it live, I'm thinking like, at first, I don't know, I didn't think it was particularly bad, but when you go back and see it from different angles, I don't think there's any intent in it. He didn't go to do that. He did go to try and shield the ball, but the timing was wrong. But I think somebody said on Facebook earlier, 100% an accident, but 100% a sending off. Would you agree?
I think so. I think Brendan came out afterwards and said he was fouled and he should have gone down because he was trying to stay upright and keep his footing, that he ended up stumbling into the challenge and, as you say, tried to shield the ball as everybody does. They try and put their body in between, but his body shape wasn't right that he could do that. With anything like this, I always try and look at it the other way around and say, if it was a West Ham player on one of ours, what would I want? And I would have been disappointed if it wasn't a red. I think when you saw it from the different angles, I don't think there was any way that he was going to get away with it. And you're right, there was no malice. He didn't mean it. He looked shocked, didn't he? But you know, where from what happened, unfortunately, I don't think in the modern age there was any way he was going to stay on the pitch.
I think once the referee had walked over to and they said on the commentary, you know what's coming. As I think Brendan said, once the referee walks over to that monitor, you know what
I do. What I don't like in the modern game though is how they exaggerate it. Now it was bad from where the placement of his foot was bad. But he was rolling around as if he'd sort of broken his leg, and within a minute he was back up and running again. You know, I don't think that is acceptable because you essentially cheating may be a bit harsh, but I know you're trying to gain an advantage and get a fellow professional sent off and get an advantage for your team, but you are exaggerating what's actually happened. You know, we still see people holding their face when, you know, somebody's brushed their shoulder or whatever. And for me, that's not called out enough. You know, we have enough TV shows now and pundits talking about this, that, and the other, but they're very loath to call out their fellow professionals, you know, for that kind of behaviour. And I think it needs to be done. I'm not saying that particular incident wasn't bad, but it didn't look like he was as badly injured as he was making out.
I've been saying this for a while, Steve, that, you know, we've got this technology now. We should have the FA, who we know are sort of slightly short on the old spherical objects, but they should be able to look back at these games and go, right, that guy was cheating, 1-2 match ban. And that would end it straight away, wouldn't it?
It would end it straight away. And you go from that extreme now to corners and free kicks. The thing that gets my bugbear up, it's like a wrestling match. Before the ball's taken, they've got them round the throat, they've got them round the waist, they've got them down there. Surely, you know, that's got to be a foul. Anywhere else on the pitch would be a foul. Yeah. But I can't understand why they let it happen. And I think that's breeding the way players are outside the box.
And for me, you see more and more these days of the players not even looking at the ball. Now, if you're not looking at the ball, you're clearly trying to impede someone. So that as you say, that's a foul anywhere else on the pitch. If you're not looking where the ball is, you're deliberately trying to impede the man, which is it's a foul, it's a penalty straight away. But nobody has the balls to call these things out. I think you've lost your sound, Chris.
Wrong knobs again, I think.
I think you're right. He's always playing around with them. Yeah, we'll keep talking, Chris. Don't worry. But I mean, from it must be frustrating as an ex-pro, knowing when you played, Steve, how physical the game was. And I would have thought if you were feigning injury, your own players would call you out.
Oh yeah, you know, I was just talking about this a few weeks ago. Over my career now, I broke my nose 9 times. I had my ear ripped off. I broke my back. I broke my ribs. Lost a few teeth. You know, and if you had the shenanigans that's going on in the box now, you know, you had your Roy Keanes, you had your Gordon McQueens, you get an elbow in the face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Is this working now, guys?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a love-hate relationship, me and Craig. We love ourselves and hate each other. But let me ask this then, because I'm not criticizing Brendan as in he's got to go, we've got to get him out. He has bad games. All managers, you know, if we lose, you look at the manager because that's what he's paid. You know, he's paid to win games. But when you're 1-0 down, one man down, half-time whistle goes, is that not the time, Craig, I'll come to you first with this one, is that not the time that you make changes? You don't come out of the second half with exactly the same players, with the same formation, which is similar to what Hussenhall did at Southampton when we beat them 9-0.
Yeah, I was surprised, to be honest. You know, you get this thing about, I'm going to give them the opportunity to put it right, you know, but you could see that game plan wasn't working from, as Steve said earlier, within a couple of minutes. You know, it was almost like, right, we'll knock the ball around between us at the back. They will come and press, and that will create little gaps for us to play balls in. As soon as they decided not to and just stood there and watched us, we had no idea what to do. So he had to change it, and he had the opportunity, as you say, at half-time, to at least change personnel. And sometimes, you know, it doesn't matter who you are, from my perspective. If you're not doing it and you're not putting in the effort, then you get hooked and you get a kick up the backside. I think too many players have become untouchable and they almost feel scared, particularly certain players who, shall we say, are you know, if you're negotiating contracts, or all the power is with the players these days. And it seems like there's not enough power with the managers to actually be a little bit harder on some of the players if they're not performing.
You're not saying, surely, it can't be, Steve, that Leicester City have a problem with the player power in the dressing room, as in getting certain managers sacked?
Well, over the last couple of 3 or 4 years, it does look like it has happened. You go back to a couple of managers before, but I personally think, you know, and I'm not a Gareth Southgate fan, but I thought he joined the coaching team in the week just before that game. And then you go back to the Euros and how we played in the Euros and how we lost the Euros. It typifies the final that's how Leicester played. You had a manager on the side that just stuck with his game plan, and he just let West Ham get on with what they were doing, the changes and attacking, and you know, and it looked as though exactly the same as the Euro. Gareth Southgate hadn't got a clue how to change it.
It's passive football. I think, you know, the best teams don't worry so much about the opposition, but I don't know whether Brendan's always been like that, but Brendan, to me, always seems to worry more about the opposition rather than concentrating on the strengths of us and letting them worry about it.
I think you're going back down. I think you go back down to the realms of Leicester being a top 6 club now, which they are by right because they're in there, but they are starting to play like the top 6 teams. And if you look at the other 5 in the top 6, they're all very similar to how they play. There's no big difference to how they play. Possession football, backwards, sideways, do whatever. And that's how the top 6 play. Now you go just below the top 6, where West Ham are going to be good if they carry on attacking where they are. Leeds United are the same. Sheffield was when they last season or the season before that when they were going at teams. And the best way to defend a game is to attack.
I thought the changes came too late, but we lost. It is only the second game into the season. Let's not, start. We get annoyed when we lose those games, but like you say, we're on the same points as Man City at the moment. So we're not. It's not the end of the world, but we have got Norwich on Saturday, 3:00 at Carrow Road, an away game. It's not on telly. It's a 3:00 kickoff on a Saturday. That's two. That's 2 in the first 3 games for Leicester. My God! But you can hear it if you're in the Shire. You can hear it on BBC Radio Leicester, or if you're outside the show and if you choose, this is your choice, lcfc.com radio. Now, I had a show last night. It was a very hastily put together show, but we've lost Perez. We've got problems again with the defence, and Daniel came on with me, and we actually put together, and we used to do this last season, but we actually put together the team that we thought, well, no, we know Brendan's not going to go for this, but we think that should come out on Saturday. So I just want to run it past you guys and just see what you thought, because we went for 2 up front because it worked so well for us at the back end of last season. You know, Inacho finished the season top goal scorer. You know, he stumbled upon that combination, Brendan. It worked for us, and now he's dumped it. So, we did go for a 4-1-3-2 formation. Now, Craig, first of all, what do we got? Schmeichel in goal. Pierre, we brought Ndidi back. Soyuncu, and we've got Bertrand back because Soyuncu needs somebody next to him that can talk and control, and you know Amati can't do that. I know we're losing Ndidi midfield. We're slotting Sumari in there, and then Albrighton, Tillemans, Barnes. Maddison isn't doing it at the moment. Inacho and Vardy's not doing it. To be honest with you, he's gone on a long, run of not. He got a goal against Wolves, but. Give Daka a chance. I don't know what. First of all, Craig, will come to you. What you thought of that formation?
I had a similar conversation with my lad Scott, and I talked about going to a 4-1-3-2, but and I think it could work, but I would never pull Ndidi back out of that position because, for me. If you want Albrighton and Barnes to be wide, you're going to leave yourself really outnumbered in the middle of the park for me with that formation. If you're playing 2 people who you're happy to be a little bit more narrow and allow the wing back or the fullbacks to provide the width, then I think it works. But then you've got to have Ndidi to give the protection. So for me,
and you don't think Sumari could do that?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's had 2 games. Well, he's not even had a full game in the Premier League. He's not an Ndidi. For me, he's a little bit more forward thinking. I don't think you do that. I think you lose in midfield. I think Sumari will turn out to be a really good player. You know, the way that he holds the ball, he holds people off. I'm really impressed so far. But I think you're being a little bit harsh on Amati. Yeah, he's given the ball away a couple of times. If we weren't trying to play that silly possession football, then he wouldn't be doing that. But the covering he does and the blocks that he does, I think, are going a little bit unnoticed. So I would happily go with that. Albrighton, maybe. I mean, I would probably have Maddison and Barnes and Tielemans. Put your best players on the pitch and allow the fullbacks to provide the width. But I would, yes, go with 2 up front. Maybe not Daka. I'd play Inacho and Vardy probably, and then give Daka a run after sort of 60 minutes.
But Steve, I mean, I love Vardy to bits. Obviously, love the guy, hero status and all that, but he isn't scoring. It is simple. So do you not give somebody else a chance? Daka's there. We know he's got the pace. We do. If I was Inacho, I'd be well pissed off this season after the way I finished last season. Is any player above being dropped?
To me, you go back to Vardy. Vardy hasn't done anything wrong. Vardy's just not getting the service. Vardy's not they're not playing to Vardy's strength. You look at your formations that you play. I'm not a firm believer of playing a defensive midfield player because against West Ham, because he was so deep, he was just bypassed all the time anyhow. And then when you go to your 2 wide men in your middle thing, the runs are too long because they're having to start too deep from in their half. And the best get out ball now is Vardy, and where Vardy comes back is good. You put him in the channels, then you all push up. You got your support on or past the halfway line. So the runs get tighter and shorter, and that's where you contain the opposition. But because we're playing back and we're doing all this back passing and whatever, you're just allowing everybody to come on to you.
But with Vardy, Steve, I mean, even when he's had the ball and there's been in games when he's had the chances, he's not putting them away. And I know strikers do go through these patches, and Vardy does it every season. He has a patch where a barren spell, as they call it. So why not give him a rest and bring Daka on, let him get his sharpness back in training, and if need be, 15, 20 minutes to go, and we need that goal, then bring him on, fresh and fit. That's not easy for me to say. Run at the defence.
I think you can go two ways with Vardy. I think because now his age and the way he's coming on towards the end of his career, if you were to leave him out now, I think that's Jamie Vardy gone. I think that he wouldn't be able to come on and perform like he does in the game. So I think while he's still got the legs in him, and he is potentially still the main man at Leicester, you have to play to his strengths. And the way the setup at the moment, you're not getting the best out of Jamie Vardy because it's not his game. He's not his game. He has to be on the back line. And you watch when he does do it and he does it well. People think, oh, he only does it in spasms, but that's the only reason and the only time he can do it is where the ball is relative to him.
Yeah. Charlie says here, KDH and Dennis Pratt. Bring Dennis Pratt. I love Dennis Pratt, but I can't see him as a starter unless we're absolutely suffering with injuries. And when we did this, Daniel and me both said that KDH would probably come on in the second half for Albrighton at that point. Vardy only suffers when he doesn't get the service, says Dorco. But he's had the service, and apart from the one goal against Wolves, in matches where he's had the service, he hasn't scored. He's been, and in away games, let me just quote you this, guys. He says, looking at the BBC website, he's been something like 12 games away games and not scored. His longest gap without scoring for a long time. So
I think you've got to look at the players you've got there because if you go to, I've been watching the start of the season now. You look at Gray, who we've got rid of. Look how he's performing for Everton because they're playing to his strengths and he's got the freedom to do what he's doing at Everton, where I feel he was restricted and told that he can't, that style of play wasn't that Leicester wanted at the time. And I think that's the thing that's happening in the moment. You've got so many good players that are good players. They don't become bad players overnight. It's just that I feel that the way they're trying to play or the way they're told to play, they're all going into a comfort zone and that they're trying to stick to that plan. And I don't think it's working.
Maybe then Craig with Gray, and I like Gray. He had a go and he went at the defence, but yeah, if he doesn't fit in the current manager's plans and he wasn't a Rodgers signing, then you can understand them being let go.
Up to a point, he is a sort of an out-and-out winger, of which Brendan seems to want, and the only one that we had, he let go. He got in, which didn't really work out. The thing with Vardy, I think you're being a little bit harsh because everybody said in the Wolves game that he looked like he was back to his old self. He ran himself into the ground in that game. He was really sharp for the goal. It was a great goal. Against West Ham, I don't think he had any chances at all. And then if you're talking about going back into a 2 with Iheanacho coming in, Iheanacho built up a great partnership with Vardy. So on one hand, you're saying we go back to the 2 that worked last season so well, but then you're taking one of them away. It doesn't mean that partnership will work straight away with Daka. And Vardy worked well in a 2 when we were playing more narrow because he took that left-hand channel quite a lot. So if you're going to play Barnes and Vardy as a 2, they're going to get in each other's way. I think it's about getting the blend of the right players. And I don't think that Brendan's worked it out yet. I think we went back to a 1 just so he could accommodate Barnes. Now, I don't know, maybe Barnes could play more central. I don't know, out of that 3 that are you've got behind the 2. But I think if you're going to go back to a 2, I think it has to be to start the game, it has to be Vardy and Iheanacho. And as I say, I can see Vardy becoming the new Okazaki this season and just getting hooked after 60, 65 minutes for Daka.
Yeah, no, I know where you come on. You both make very, very valid points. Wrong, but no, I'm joking. I'm joking. But yeah, this is football. Yeah, you make some good. Madison JJ says here head looks turned this season. Madison isn't performing at all. He's not got back to his fitness, but who knows? We will see what Brendan does. Brendan, the book stops with him. Munsey's getting rather excited at Ronaldo possibly going back to Man United. I believe he's only going because we didn't want him. Apparently, he's been given. He was offered to every Premier League club, and Leicester said, "Nah, we don't want has-beens, people that of sloppy fifths or whatever it is." I'm gonna get hate now off Man United fans. Daniel James to the Foxes with Ronaldo going there. He's a winger, and he's a young winger, and I think Madison Brendan could get the best out of him. We need that winger, and maybe on loan if Man United don't want to sell him. Matthew here, not a Gray fan. Gray was awful, sulky, arrogant, and only performed when it suited him. Glad to see the back of him. You go to these different clubs and
get off the fence, Matthew.
Yeah, don't hold back, mate. Dorco says, Brighton knows how to feed Vardy. He certainly does. So the game, Norwich, a good one to follow that performance on Steve, or would you sooner say, well, we should be better to pay a Chelsea or a Man City?
I think it would have been better to play a top team. Mm-hmm. I think this can be very dangerous this weekend because Norwich haven't got the results they want yet, and they're a championship team that play championship football, which will, give Leicester a good game, especially if he tries to play his possession thing. I don't think that'll work at all. But I think it's going to be, on your predictions, I've gone for a Norwich win because I feel that.
I'm coming to that later, mate. I'm hoping you're sticking with the reverse psychology again that you did last season.
Oh, yeah. But I think, to be honest, I don't want to upset too many fans here, but I think the hype with Leicester at the moment is that Leicester's trying to grow too big too quick. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of people now within the club thinking they are a top six club and they're not working. They're not. You have to perform. You have to perform. And on what I've seen so far, especially the West game, they haven't performed.
Craig, would you agree with that? I mean, Norwich, we lose to West Ham, and fans will say, yeah, we're not going to win every single game, every week, be the new Invincibles, but. Losing to West Ham, you kind of get West Ham have gone top, and we know they weren't a bad team last season. Shoots my prediction in the foot that they overshot themselves last season, and they're going to go down this season. But never. That's why I don't bet. But if we lose now to Norwich following that, that's why I'm thinking would we have been better off for Chelsea, Man City, and following that, Craig, are we also getting too big for our boots?
I agree that a bigger team would have been better because you've got everything to lose and nothing really to gain in this game coming up, because the majority of fans will be expecting us to just turn up and win because it's Norwich. So you don't really gain anything from that, but you have got a hell of a lot to lose. And if they got a defeat, back-to-back defeats against West Ham and Norwich, then the sort of doubts start to set in. And we know that psychology is such a huge thing in football, confidence, even the very best players, confidence is massive. You take 2-3 extra touches where you'd be picking it off in one, or you just take one because you want to get rid of it as quickly as you can. And that's where you have to be brave on the ball. But, passing it sideways isn't brave to me, It's about taking the chances and feeding a ball through. And the most frustrating thing was that there seemed to be so many opportunities to do that against West Ham, to thread a little quick pass. But it was like the speed of thought wasn't there, and they were trying to be precise. And again, I've said this before. It comes down to trust. You have to trust one another. That if you play the ball into someone in a tight area, they can take it. You know, if you think I'm not going to play it because there's someone within 5-10 yards of him, then you know you're losing trust in each other, and that's only going to go one way. You're just going to take the safe option all the time. So, going back to the question, I think we can't get ahead of ourselves and think that we only have to turn up. We're a top 6 team, and we have to turn up. We're so far away from that. In my mind, we've got good players, but we don't. With that, you have to have a mentality that comes with it, and I don't think we have the mentality of a top 6.
JJ says there, easy win, Chris, 5-0, Daniel and Marty hat-trick. JJ, I don't know what you're on, but let me know. Send me a message because I want some of that. If Daniel and Marty gets a hat-trick in any scoreline tomorrow, JJ, I'll come down there and buy you a pint. Matthew says Norwich will be well up for this. Fearful they will be, I have a feeling. Charlie, we won't win unless Brendan makes major changes from the West Ham game. Well, we talked about that before. You obviously, I've made a lot of changes in that team selection, but that has its downside as well, that you can sometimes make too many changes. David says last year we were playing well with Maddison, Barnes, Vardy, Yori, and Didi, and no Nacho. So other than JJ, didn't we have a blueprint for success? Then something else is lacking now from the team, I feel. We'll come here to Virat. Marty Cags always on capacity for most of the first half. We were too slow for West Ham and played the price. I mean, Steve, I'm of a certain age. I grew up when Liverpool were the dominant force in English football, and they played that sort of football. You know, they're passing it around, waiting for the right time. You know, even in the 80th minute, if they're 1-0 down, they'd wait but then they'd make that incisive pass forward. We're trying to do that, but we don't have that incisive pass in us, do we?
You look at Liverpool now, and you look at them in the past. You look at Man City the same. They played the possession and they played it across, but they still played the possession play going forward. So they're not. Whereas Leicester try to play the possession football, but they're not moving forward when they're playing the possession football. They're playing it rather across the pitch than up the pitch. Now, your Man City's and Liverpool, they'll play that way, but they'll still play that way going forward. And they take one stage to the next stage, to the next stage, the final stage. But Leicester seemed to just be on stage 1 all at the West Ham game, and they couldn't get through to stage 2. Now, the only worry is now, if you can still make all the changes you want to on Saturday, but if you go out with the mentality of still trying to play across the pitch rather than go forward at the pitch, you're still going to get the same result, I'm afraid.
And it's cost us so many times, hasn't it, Craig? You know, we're not just looking at it's a one-off. How many times has Schmeichel got caught out trying to play a short ball rather than kick it upfield? I mean, this is what worries me. And you might laugh when I say this is what worries me, but, you know, not last season, the season before when Norwich were here, they finished 20th, which is where they are now. They've lost their last 7 Premier League games, and we know they're capable of getting a good result. I think they are going to be the whipping boys, but we know how Leicester are against teams like that. We struggle, don't we?
But this is, I mean, you talk about going up against the big teams as a test. In terms of where we want to be, this game is a test because, you know, the so-called big clubs wouldn't be going into this having any thoughts that they could get turned over, you know, yet we are doing that. So as I come back to, it's that mentality that we've got to get into, that we're going to take the game to the opposition. And at the minute, we don't. We play this passive football. We wait for the opposition to come to us. Yeah, it worked when we won the league, but that was a one-off. You know, we had the surprise element, and we played a lot longer then. You know, we're waiting for teams to come onto us, but we're still trying to play the short football through them, and it doesn't always work. We played a lot of what I would call progressive longer balls, you know, into the channels for Vardy and for Mahrez. We're not doing that now. So we lost there last time, didn't we? We lost. I think I don't know, even though it may have been the last game that they won in the Premier League. They beat us 1-0. Yeah, and I remember that was a similar game. I think we had a couple of chances. I think Maddison had a chance early on, but again, we were passive rather than playing fast and aggressive. We play best when we're fast and aggressive, and we got players who are comfortable doing that. Ricardo, for instance, wants to play fast and aggressive all the time. Playing the ball in, getting little 1-2s. When we do that, we look really dangerous. Most teams these days are organised enough to just sit in front. If any team wants to just pass around the back, it's simple. The three of us could sit there in midfield and probably just stand there and wait for them to pass around us. We've got to be more aggressive.
Going back to last year, I think the game that typifies what we're trying to say now is the Man U game in the Cup, where we took the game to Man U and everybody on the pitch was geared to go forward, and we looked to complete the complete team. It was a complete performance, and I think that's the way you have to look at Leicester going forward. Leicester have to do that. They can't pretend they're a top six and keep playing all possession football because the West End game showed you that. But if you can go with the mentality and the style like you did against them in the Cup, that's when Leicester are good.
I don't know if either of you guys saw the Chelsea-Arsenal game. Chelsea were like unbelievable. If that Chelsea turns up against the Leicester that turned up against West Ham United, I'll be peeking out from behind the sofa. It will be horrendous, won't it, Craig?
Well, it will, but then we have this tendency to sort of turn up, don't we? That we sit in and we it's frustrating. I think that's the biggest thing, because we know when we play against some of these top teams, we can play really well. We may concede a lot of possession, but we're well organised. We were pretty well organised, I think, in the Community Shield. I think until Chelsea came at us late on in the cup final, I don't think we conceded a lot of pitch. We conceded a lot of possession, but I don't think they cut us open a lot, as I say, until later on when they were throwing people forward. So we can be well organised. What Brendan's got to do is find the balance between being well organised and progressive. And that comes with playing quicker. That when you get on the ball, it's 1-2 touch and you get up the pitch a lot quicker. Every team will get players back and get organised. So the only way to get through them, particularly against teams like Norwich, is by playing 1-2 football, quickly getting up the pitch. And if we don't do that, then we could well be in trouble.
Yeah. And mother has spoken, gentlemen, there. TM says, guys, you look so sad. It's so early, you'll pull it back. Spoken like a true Tottenham fan who knows that you'll start well and you just know what's going to come later in the season. Virat, not the best mentally at the moment. No big team should worry or would worry about Norwich. Or follows that up with have to go for the kill. Cannot sit back even if we go 1-0 up at the weekend. Charlie says here, Canaries sold Buyenda but have bought Tzolis and Rashica. Were very good but need time to settle. Stay tuned, Charlie. You might hear something about one of those players coming up a tad later. But like I say, Steve, looking at, we looked at, we shouldn't take Norwich lightly because last time we played them, we got 1 point out of a possible 6. And they've not got, it's not a foregone conclusion. Played 6 times in the Premier League. They've won 2, we've won 3. Are we in danger of underestimating them?
I think we are with the mentality that Brendan Rodgers thinks that, we're a top 6 club and then we can play the ball and do what we want. I think that's the danger. I keep going back to it, but you'll be sitting here this time at the end of the season, because if you look back at last season, it was only 3 or 4 games that cost you, Champions League and all that. And I think we're going down the realms again now. But if he doesn't change or doesn't get it going, we won't be even sitting at the end of the year thinking that, because we won't be in the top 6. So you have to now. The only way you can start doing it is changing mentality. Okay, I know he's got to play his square and he does play his cop up, but you've got to take it forward and you've got to take the game to the opposition. Now, I think Norwich would be more scared of Leicester if Leicester were to do that. But they'll be looking at the result against West Ham. They'll be watching the game, and they'll be rubbing their hands, thinking if they turn up like they did against West Ham, we've got them, because they're not a threat. They didn't look a threat anywhere on the pitch.
Craig, this time last season, we had West Ham, who we underestimated. We had Fulham, who beat us. It's not going to strike twice, is it, Lightning?
Well, as I say, I've seen nothing in Brendan Rodgers to suggest otherwise, to be honest, because we never seem to change. There never seems to be a reaction. There doesn't seem to be a reaction between games. There doesn't seem to be a reaction within a game, which for me is worrying. We all pay the lip service to Brendan, and results speak for themselves. We've done really well. We've won the cup. We've finished 5th twice. So I can't knock him. What I'd like to see is some progression. And he talks about progression a lot, how this team is progressing, how the individual players are progressing. I'm not seeing it on the pitch. I'm not seeing us be more commanding in any game than we were 2 seasons ago. So
do we want that too soon?
Well, at some point, I mean, you can't. You have to progress each year, you know, and it's not just about where you finish in the league. It's what you do on the pitch. And I don't think anybody can say that we've progressed on the pitch, you know, in terms of the way we play. I'm not sure any team is sort of particularly fearful of playing Leicester anymore, because they know if they're well organised, then we're not particularly adept at breaking teams down.
We are going to now look, because if you remember, Steve, last season we used to have Craig's team and he would pick the team. But we decided that because Brendan never listened to us, that we were going to give that up this season. And so we've actually gone this season, we're going to be doing one to watch from the opposition. Now, I haven't heard of this guy. I don't know whether you have or not. The gentleman that just mentioned him before in the comments, but the one that you've gone for, Craig, and I'm sure you went for him because you know I have difficulty pronouncing these foreign names. Pronounce his name and tell us about him. Why should we watch him?
Milo Rashika. Well, I'm a little bit worried about it because if you remember rightly, last week I gave the one to watch as Antonio.
You did. I was going to mention that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
When everybody was talking about Ben Rama, but for me, Antonio was the one that we should watch, and when we didn't. But Rashika's an interesting player, as you say, that not a lot of people know much about him. I think he's the first Kosovan player to come into the Premier League, and he's actually Norwich's record signing. It went as undisclosed, but I think it was around the sort of £9.5 million pounds fee for him. He's very direct. He's very quick. He's got good feet, both feet. He had a decent scoring record. He's come from Werder Bremen, and I think he may have been top scorer the last couple of seasons there for a young player. Not huge numbers of goals, but for someone who plays predominantly out wide, he's got into double figures the last 2 seasons at Werder Bremen. And I think he's the sort of player who plays with a freedom that all he wants to do is get the ball and go forward. He's very, very direct, as I say, very quick, can play anywhere across the front line. So you could see him roving around a little bit. And for me, he's definitely one that we need to keep an eye on, because if we played sort of so-called Leicester teams last season and we got caught out very square 2 or 3 times against Newcastle, I remember, at Crystal Palace and Fulham, and fast players, if they time their run, they get in behind us. So he's somebody who we've really got to keep an eye out for me. And I think he's going to do well this season. It may well take him a little bit of time to get up to speed, but he's definitely an exciting player for me.
Well, like I said, I am really scared after last week, Craig. That was picking Antonio. Oh, again, Brendan obviously didn't listen to you, because if he had, he would have watched. Now, score predictions. We're going to come straight back after this, and Steve, can explain maybe why he's decided that Norwich might just manage to get one over on us. But we'll be straight back after this.
The Premier League is back, and we've got it all covered here on Leicester Till I Die TV. Subscribe.
So, Steve, let's jump straight to you, because we do this every week on LeicesterTillIDie.com, the website. Steve, at the moment, is joint top of the league Hey!
Yay!
Now,
Oh, that's
I must
Dave.
admit, that's a position you weren't familiar with last season. It was the other end.
Last season, I went for the reverse psychology because I wanted Leicester to win every game. But I've gone past that now because, like Chris was saying earlier in his comments, I want to see Leicester progress, and I think that's why now I'm going to try and name it as I see it. And the only reason I've gone for the 2-0 Norwich is because Norwich have got to win a game. They're at home. They've got to do a performance. And, you know, I don't think Leicester are set up at the moment to play the teams lower down.
Well, I've gone for the opposite to you. I've gone for 2-0 to Leicester because I think, to be honest with you, it is a must win. And I don't think we can afford to lose it. Marshy's gone 1-0. Steve Walsh and Jerry Taggart have both gone 2-1. And Ian Wilson has gone 2-0 to Leicester as well. Craig, which side of the fence are you going to go? Steve's side or the rest of us?
Well, I'm a little bit worried. I think my prediction career may well be over, Chris, because I agree with you. Which is,
it's got bad then.
It's not somewhere that I've ever wanted to be honest. But I've got a feeling that they have to come out with the right attitude. But if they do, if Brendan gets that right, then I think it's 2-0, and I think we should keep Norwich at arm's length. Can you see where the goals are coming from, though? Well, I don't think they're the greatest defensively, and as I say, I think if we play progressively, I think we've got a chance. We have got people who can slide balls through when the ball breaks down, and I think that's it. We played too slow, and that's why I say, Steve, if we come out with the right attitude, that's what I'm basing that on. If we come out with the same attitude as we did with West Ham, then yeah, we'll be lucky to get away with a draw. But I'm hoping that he has instilled that thought process. What frustrates me more than anything with Brendan is after the game, he comes out and says the things that we've all seen. We didn't move the ball quick enough. We weren't sharp enough or whatever. But get that over at the start of the game or change it. Don't stand afterwards after a bad defeat and then tell us all what we can all see. You know, he's getting to that point where words are not enough. It's got to be shown on the pitch.
A bit like Steve Bruce at Newcastle. Don't want to compare that, but he talks a good game as well. But yeah, so that those are the score predictions. Craig, my God, I'm going to write this down. He's agreed with me. 2-0. You probably just saw there that this season we are doing that in conjunction with the longball.net. I can't do fantasy football because it takes over my life, and I change, as you've seen, for my team choice this week. Because Vardy hasn't scored on the last game, I'd drop him and bring somebody else in. So I'm useless with fantasy football. I'd take one player out and think I'm going to bring him in, but then I'm 2 million short, so I have to get somebody and then I'm there all night. This one, it's just predicting the actual scores. You've done it, and if Craig can do it, anybody can do it. But you've done it, haven't you, Craig?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, it's pretty easy. Although some of the bonus points got me a little bit confused, but I think I've got it now. Yeah, so yeah, it's easy.
I'm not sure how the bonus points work either, to be honest with you. I know if you can choose 3 bankers with a B, and I think if you get that dead on, you get more points. So yeah, but I'm sorry, Steve. I've got to say, I do hope. I really, really hope you're wrong.
Oh, so do I as well. But you know, it's just this feeling I've got because it's hard to lift yourselves, and like you say, and the longer it goes on, the more frustration you get, and the harder it'll be. I'm hoping that it was a one-off.
Do you remember, Steve, that when David Moyes was manager of Everton? And I always felt Everton had one good season when they would finish 6th, 7th, 8th, around that time. Then they seemed to have a bad season when they finished maybe 12th, 13th, 14th. Then a good, then a bad. And I'm really worried that we might turn into that if we're not careful.
The thing that's going against Leicester at the moment is we've been on a run now where it's all been highs. It's all been highs. We've been there or thereabouts and whatever. And you look back at, this is a worrying point for me. You look back at Sheffield United now, they were doing it a few good years. Now they should be going backwards. Wolves were the same. They were on a high thing. They've gone backwards now. And it's like any work of, or anything in life, is that, you only get a progression for so long, and then you start to dip and start to go back. And I don't think Leicester can see past that at the moment. Like Chris said earlier, there's just plan A. There's no plan B, and that's the thing that he has to get, is a plan B, because you will have bad games, but at the moment you can't see us changing what we're doing.
No. But Craig, do you think, we have progressed each year, and as you say, you want to see progression each year, but progression for us now would be top 4 and Champions League. But for us to get into that top 4, you've got to think, well, are Manchester City going to drop out? They've just spent, £100 million on a player, £1 billion on one player. It's ridiculous. Are Man United going to drop out? They're talking about buying Ronaldo. They've spent millions again. Same with Chelsea. They've just spent nearly £1 billion, 94 on Lukaku, or Liverpool. And this is the problem, as Steve says. Have we now reached our limit? Because it's going to be a hell of a big jump to get into that top 4, which would be progression.
Yeah, it would be progression, I think, but there is a limit to progression. Within your means, you can do as well as you can within your means, and you can't really go beyond it. And as we are at the minute, progression has to be seen in other ways, and we are progressing as a club. The plans they've got for the ground shows progression as a club. The training ground is progression as a club. What they've got to maintain is almost at least a status quo on the pitch, because with the best will in the world, when you sit back and you take off your blue tinted glasses, then there's some bloody big clubs in the Premier League, and the fact that we've been up there for the last 2 or 3 seasons is phenomenal. To be honest, it is overachieving. So with that comes an expectation, but when you sort of plant your feet back down and you realise top 10, top 8 is a good season for the size of club that we are. So it's baby steps from here on, in terms of progression. It's the sort of thing that you may not see. You don't see a snail get from A to B, but he gets there eventually, and that's maybe that we've sped up so far, got to a point, and now the progression will be a little bit slower.
Virat's just said then, I've just checked, Man United have reached an agreement to re-sign Ronaldo.
They've come out and announced it. So, yeah.
The bad news for everybody is that Mark Lawrenson has predicted a Leicester win. So, it's not going to happen. Steve, it's been great to have you back on again. You're welcome anytime, and we do this every Friday. So I know you need a wash because you came straight in from work.
Yes, paint all over, paint.
I think that was more you were pulling the wool over my eyes. I think what you're trying to say was, because your daughter's birthday party, you got about 6 14-year-old girls in, you just couldn't get in the bathroom, could you?
That's it, mate. That's the excuse. But I hope I haven't come over too negative tonight on Leicester. It's just that I want Leicester to do so well, but I feel as though he has to get a plan B. Has to.
To be honest with you, Steve, we would sooner have honesty than we can't come on here every week and go Leicester fantastic, Leicester fantastic, Leicester fantastic, because we're ex-players or we're big fans. But we can't also come on and say Leicester rubbish. So it's nice to have that ex-player's view on it. So no, you haven't at all. You haven't at all. But I'm going to go and slip my wrists now. But thanks.
The nice thing I see on Facebook, because I've got quite a few Leicester fans on there now.
Yes.
I see the excitement of them every Saturday and how they think Leicester's going to do. And I think it's more, when it doesn't go right, it's more of a hurt for them. And I think that's the crippling thing at the moment, is because the Leicester fans are so hyped up as though, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then, you get hit in the face by the performance like West Ham. And you think to yourself, it's a shame for them, to be honest.
It is. Success breeds anticipation, more higher anticipation. Steve, thank you very much. There's no show next week because it's the international weekend. Hopefully, maybe see you in a couple of weeks if you've got rid of the girls out your house by
Yes,
then.
I will do. You might see me sitting in the old motorhome again, but
You stay there, mate. I bet you got the cold beers in the fridge. You enjoy it. Thanks very much, Steve. As always,
Cheers,
been a pleasure to have you on.
cheers, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Craig, I know you've got to go off because it's Scott's birthday. Wish him a very happy birthday from me.
I will indeed. Thank you very much.
And don't do anything I wouldn't enjoy.
I live my life by that, Chris.
Well, I should hope so. If you do, you won't go far wrong.
Excellent.
Go and have a great night. Thanks for that, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Fingers crossed for 3 points at the weekend.
Definitely. Cheers, Chris. Bye, everyone.
We'll see you next Tuesday for the quiz, Southampton.
Indeed. Correct. All right. I'll catch
All
you
the
then.
best, mate.
All
Have
right,
a good
cheers.
night. Take
Bye
care.
all.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thanks to Craig there, and thanks to Steve Lynex. It's always great to have Steve on. What I love about Steve Lynex, yes, he's an ex-player, so, he has a certain, loyalty to Leicester, but obviously he's a West Brom fan. You can tell from his accent, and he does give it to us straight. He doesn't try to butter things up. And, as fans, sometimes we can get carried away one way or the other. After winning the FA Cup, we were going to be the best team in England. After losing to West Ham, we're going to get relegated. It's hard sometimes as fans to strike the happy medium. Steve comes on and he gives it us straight, which is great. And of course, being an ex-player, I grew up, I went to school with Gary Lineker. So I grew up with that period of Lineker, Lynex, Alan Young, great years. I know we didn't sort of win anything, but they eased me into football, if you like. Virat, thanks for joining us. Enjoyed this one. Nervous for tomorrow. I'm nervous, but that's a Leicester fan, isn't it? Because we know we could go out tomorrow and play Chelsea, who've just played Arsenal off the pitch, and we could beat them 2-0, 2-1. And we can go out to Norwich, who are bottom of the league, haven't won a Premier League game for about 9-10 games, and we could lose. Hey, it's all about being a Leicester fan. That's what it is. We know it's a roller coaster ride. After Norwich, of course, these are the games we've got coming up. We've got next Saturday off because it's the international. With then a small matter of Manchester City, talking about Manchester City. And then we've got Brighton, and then we've got Burnley. And that is the thing that really does worry me, guys, is the fact that, do you know what? We've got, and no disrespect to the other teams, but we've probably got one of the easiest starts to a Premier League season, apart from Man City, that we've ever had. And if we don't take advantage of that, what will happen? But like Steve says, after what we've had for the last couple of seasons, expectations grow. And you want more, don't you? But listen, Charlie, thank you very much for joining us. Come on, you Foxes. Fingers crossed for tomorrow. Norwich 1, Leicester 3. I'd take that now if you're giving it me, Charlie. I definitely would. I'm going to be back at 9 o'clock, and I'm going to be joined by a West Ham fan, and we're going to be looking at the Europa League draw. Join me then. If anybody wants to come on, because I haven't got a co-presenter at the moment for later on tonight, so if anybody is free and wants to come on, send me a message either on Twitter at LeicesterTID or Chris Forryan, Forryan, on Facebook, and you can come on and host with me. It would be great to have you on. But we're going to be looking at West Ham's draw. They're very, very pleased with the draw, but they're saying we've got the group of death. Do you think so? Chat about it at 9 o'clock. Guys, thanks for joining us. As always, it's been a pleasure. We couldn't do it without you. Have an absolutely good night. Hopefully see you back here in an hour at 9 o'clock. And come on, you Foxes.
Hello, Matt Elliott here. Be sure to watch Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and follow all their social media platforms for all the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
week's episode has come to an end. But the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.